So I'm going to try and do some videos of setting this machine up for to run the card holder part that we've done all the other videos on. Don't really have a stand for the camera, so might be a little iffy, but here we go. So the block is a little large for the 2-axis vise, so I've changed the, moved the plate here and disconnected the second axis so I can get the block in here. 4.5 inches is too large to go this way, and at 3 inches is too large to fit this way. So I've kind of got it set in here. I've cut a few pieces of acrylic to act as spacers to get my height right here at about 0.15 inches. So I'm holding on to just the very bottom of the block here, and we're going to see how well that works. Might be able to, if this kicks a little bit, I might come down a little more. For the repeatable locating, I have a metal block here. I'm going to use that to get a flush measurement. Actually not on the front here, I'm going to use this to get it flush on the back. So that's where my 0 is, and so I'm actually going to measure it here, but this is what it looks like over there. So it looks flush like this. Okay. All right, and it is flush right now. So what I have to do is touch off the X, Y, and Z. Now I've already touched the tools off to the surface. You can see the marks there where I touched the first tool off, and then I touched the other 3 off. And this is the same process we did in the simulation, so I'm not necessarily going to go through that again. I am going to go through finding my XY0 though, so we'll do that in just a moment. XY0 is actually going to be in this front corner here, so I'm going to use the hand wheel jog to bring the tool up to the front left corner. And since I'm right at the edges of travel, I'm also going to make sure that I can clear the front and back of the block before I run the program. So I'm going to pause the video here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the spindle on and then actually use it to come up to the edge here and just shave a little bit there. I'll do the same thing do the same thing for my X coordinate and my Y coordinate, and then I'll set those zeros, and that will be my X and Y 0. And the Z 0, like I say, is already set. So bring the Z, bring the Y up. So it's close to the block. Here we are. And we'll call that our Y0. So over here, we'll go ahead and turn the spindle off. And we'll go to Setup. Set axis to 0. Select Y. That's what it looks like. I have tool 1 loaded. We'll select OK. And there we are with our Y position. Do the same thing on X. Turn the spindle on, enable hand wheel jog. Jog this way. Come over this way until it touches. Here we are. Go ahead and turn the spindle off. Set up, set axis to 0, X. That's what the position looks like. Select OK. And here we are, X and Y 0 set. And I will enable handle jog. Come to our Z 0. And that's just above 0. We'll look here. Our 0 looks pretty good. We'll zoom in on that so you can see a little more clearly. Our 0 looks pretty good. There's our coordinate set. So I'm going to get my verify window looking more closely, closer to what the actual stock is. My length on X is going to be 3. My width on Y is actually 4.5, but 4 is the maximum I can do there. So 1 inch for my height, 1 inch for the spacer. For the origin on the X, we'll say, actually, that looks okay. Let's verify this. This looks pretty close. Now, showing that it's going off the edge there. That's because simulation for this machine has a maximum stock size of 4 inches. But the orientations all look pretty good. So we're going to call this good. Let's go ahead and stop the simulation. And let's try running the part, see what happens. I am holding on to a pretty small chunk there, so it's possible this is going to kick. If it does, I'll have to make my spacers a little smaller. So our first pass is a facing pass, and it's just going to shave off a little bit off of the top. Then we're going to come back and do some dynamic milling. I'm not going to. It's about a 30-minute tool pass, so I'm not going to have a video for the whole process, but I'll cut back in and out for different segments of it. Okay, this is the start of our dynamic milling. This is taking about a 1/16. So it's our biggest and most substantial cut that it should be doing. And doing little micro lifts there. And coming back and doing our dynamic passes. We turned smoothing on for this tool path, so we're getting pretty good and consistent maintenance of our feed rate through the path. And remember that you have to turn smoothing on. If you don't turn smoothing on and set your value up, some, you'll get dynamic paths like this will be really slow. Outside contours. I ended up doing depth cuts on this because my first attempt lifted the part out of the vise. I also sunk the part a little further into the vise. So after this contour, we got a couple more passes. After this contour, we'll do the rounding off on the top, and then we'll flip the part. So this is doing our cleanup. Now listen what happens when it gets in the corner. Okay, you hear that? That is a corner that is the same radius as the tool. For finishing, generally you want to avoid that. This is the start of our rounding operation. This is a surface operation. It's just going to take 10 or 12 minutes. If you look closely, you'll see there's a little bit of a ridge there. Here's a contour surface tool path. And that's going to, on shallows, like the top of this fillet, it's going to leave a little bit of a step. It's just inherent to this tool path. We'll come back when we get closer to the end of this. Actually, this is the last tool pass. We'll come back when this is done and just take a tour of the part. This is our first pass on our second side. What I did here is I located 0 still in the front left corner, but for this one I located in the model front left corner, so I had to actually shave the block a little bit. I used the same stop, but I had to shave the block a little bit to get the 0 exactly where I wanted it to be. Although I will be able to locate the blocks in the future on this side. In the mill software, I actually used, we can't go to the coordinate systems now, but you actually use a correction value on the G55. So the base offsets, or the G53, is set here, and my adjusted value for the G55 is there. We've covered doing that in the simulator. So here we are nearly finished with the second tool path on the back side. My facing operation didn't quite remove all the material, but that's okay because I'm doing this roundover operation, and the roundover operation got rid of the rest of the flash. So it's got 1 or 2 more passes here, and then the part will be completely done. So it's worth taking a look at a previous attempt when I had my fixturing, when my fixturing wasn't quite right. So this is the part that lifted out of the vise because I was cutting, my contour was cutting too much material. After it lifted out of the vise and I repositioned it a little off. My block isn't actually the size that I expected it to be. So getting my block rotated in the fixture meant that my walls here weren't uniform, didn't have a uniform thickness. My height here was wrong for my second operation with the 1/4-inch mill. That's a good 15 or 20 thousandths there, and I ended up with a ridge here on the roundover. It's not a lot, but when you're using multiple tools, even a very small amount of mispositioning or malpositioning can create huge issues. On the back side, I didn't quite have my zeros correct, so I had another little ridge show up here, another one show up here. I did some more careful setting of the X and Y offset on this side, as well as pushing it into the vise when I close the air vise. So once this finishes, let's take a look at what more careful positioning and more careful use of the fixture can get us. See, I got a bit of a ridge here. Let's see if I can rotate this a little bit. You can see there's a little bit of a ridge there because our position isn't quite perfect. Generally, you want to avoid having a operation that flows a tangent surface, or that connects the first side tangentially to the second side, because stuff like this is hard to avoid. But a little bit of polishing should take care of that. And we do want to polish this anyway, get some of the fogginess out of it. The ridges are all fairly small, or all pretty small, and a little bit more overlap might have been able to take care of that. So I might be able to address that with a different tool path. But I've got the part is all good to go. All of our operations, all of our tool lengths matched up pretty well. Careful setup will do that for you. And if you notice, in addition to cutting a couple of acrylic blocks to make spacers, for my second operation, I used a very sophisticated found item shim to get a good grip on the block for the second operation. But there we are, finished part. And like I say, it's suitable for polishing, and it actually looks pretty nice.